I flew to Vegas in a jet, because my guy had money. Apparently people were watching me, which I didn't realize, that I grabbed the gun and then he shot me. And then he had somebody in the bushes that I didn't see. I had to go to federal prison for 10 years. When I got to federal prison, the first thing I had to realize was,
I'm here today with
Timothy.
Perfect. And then off camera we talked about everyone has some crazy stories. You do have some life stories that you would want to share.
Yes, definitely. I mean, from a young age, I got into, selling drugs with my uncle. And he turned me on to a plug that had a lot of cocaine. And from there on then, it was all she wrote. I was making good money. I stopped going to school, even though I graduated. But it was just an opportunity to make a lot more money and support my family. But the bad thing about it was I got jacked up. They got me with a brick of cocaine, and I had to go to federal prison for 10 years. And it was bad from there because people don't understand that once you go to prison, it brings your motivation down. Everything that you had, going good in your life is destroyed because you chose a bad path. And now, as I get older, now I have to learn the hard way, and the long way to make money, because legally it's harder to make money than illegally. And I didn't learn that until later in life. And now, I'm suffering the consequences.
So obviously I don't condone it, but you must have had fun with the money that you got from selling cocaine at such a young age. Is there any stories that you have just from being that young and free to do whatever you want?
Well, the biggest thing is my plug, he was so generous. He let me have a Bentley, which was a $350,000 car, which who dreams of having a $350,000 car? And from there on then, I was everywhere. All my so-called friends loved being with me because I had a Bentley and, I had a lot of money and going to clubs and just throwing money around like it wasn't nothing. And the worst thing about it was apparently people were watching me, which I didn't realize. And unfortunately, one time I got 10 bricks of cocaine, which 6 weren't mine. They were my uncle's, and just 4 were mine. Well, somebody followed me to my townhome, which was my trap, which nobody knew. And he followed me and they said, give it up. And he pulled a gun. And I was like, I'll give you the 4 bricks, but you can't have the 6 because they weren't mine. And they were like, we don't care what you're saying, man. To be honest, we're going to take it all. So I was so scared of my uncle because of how deep he was in that I grabbed the gun and then he shot me. And then he had somebody in the bushes that I didn't see and he shot me in my back, and then he shot me twice in the back. And that was my downfall. Once and the bad thing about it is when the cops finally caught up to me that night, I didn't tell on the guy that shot me, but the bad thing about it was I had said, it was random in D.C. I had left Maryland and went all the way to D.C. to go to a hospital to where they wouldn't check. But they did check, and they called the U.S. Marshals, and they came and grabbed me, and the guy that shot me had got shot too because the bad thing about it was my guy, my right-hand man, shot him 6 times. But he told that, it was me that shot him, which I didn't. And unfortunately, that night I went to jail, and they did GSR, so it took about a couple days, and then they didn't realize I wasn't a shooter. So eventually I got out, but that was the roughest time in my life because I was so up, I was so high, and it just took two people to bring me down the sides to let me know that no matter what I'm doing, there's always somebody watching. Just like there's people watching us now, always. And that's why I'm very, very real cautious about everything, and everything is subjective to me because people will do anything to get their name out there, and if they know you got money, they'll come for you. It's crazy like that.
So I will ask, as soon as that hammer got slammed down and it was sentenced, how did you feel? Like, was life just over? Or?
I felt traumatized because my mom had cancer, and the federal judge said, you can see your mother because this is the last time you'll see her alive. That's when I realized that it's all over. My life is done. Your mother is everything. And I wouldn't see her no more alive because I had to go do 10 years. And she didn't realize it was so many years because the judges said 154 months. So my mom, not knowing, she's like, oh, those are just months. You'll be all right. Then I broke the realization down to her, divided by 12. And then she realized you got 10 years. And then that's when I realized, and from there, people don't realize once you get behind the wall, people forget about you. You might have been the man when you were outside, but now you're inside and no one cares. I mean, you're by yourself.
So on the inside, you obviously have to be in a grouping. Is that a situation where movies just kind of portray it as a thing, or are there individuals, or what's the breakdown?
That's absolutely true. When I got to federal prison, the first thing I had to realize was I was from Baltimore. So I couldn't hang with Florida or any other car. They call them cars in jail. And I had to stay with my federal prisoners, Baltimore. And the bad thing about that is, whatever happens with Baltimore, I had to ride, no matter good or bad. So if we had a fight with D.C. or Louisiana, I had to ride no matter what the situation. It was do or die. And
did we get into any situations that you can say on camera how they went?
2007, we were playing a football game in the feds, and the bad thing about it is it was Florida versus D.C. and Baltimore. Well, apparently the Florida guy got too happy, and he slammed one of the D.C. guys down on the ground. Right after that, it was chaos. Everybody from D.C. and Baltimore went and started stabbing everybody from Florida. Even people that weren't even involved in the football game. It was just a matter of showing dominance and respect. Like, you don't do that. And it was the worst. I mean, it was down in USP Pollock in Louisiana. And I mean, it was recorded. I mean, it was a bad situation. Very bad.
So, do you think it really took 10 years for you to be reformed? Or as soon as you realized you ruined your life, it was then and there?
Honestly, in the whole 10 years, all I kept thinking was, why did someone tell on me? And why did it happen to me? I kept putting the blame on everybody else, even though I chose to do what I did. But did it take me that long to realize what I did was wrong? Yeah, because the money was so, the money was so prevalent that I could do anything I wanted. Like, I could go to any hotel. I flew to Vegas in a jet, because my guy had money. So we flew to Vegas to have fun. Those things I regret it now because I didn't realize it seemed fun at the time, but I didn't know how much was going to come back and bite me in the ass as bad as it did. And being away from your family all those years, and they're growing up without you, it hurts. It really hurts.
So then the final message would be, what would you say to the world? What advice, what kind of knowledge do you want people to know about?
The biggest thing they need to learn is that all that glitter is not gold, and you have to maintain in society real life situations as far as doing good, like doing a real job. I mean, drugs and alcohol are just the wrong move because they'll send you spiraling down. You'll never grow. You'll never grow anywhere with any of that. I mean, there's no positive message you can get from cocaine, drugs, or any of that because it's a no-win situation. It's a dead end. You go nowhere. And the biggest thing I like to tell the kids is that you have to do it the right way. No matter what you think is good, the right way is working a real job and maintaining balance in your life. That is the biggest message. Maintain balance. Maintain a lot of balance.
I appreciate you, Timothy.
Always.
Yes, sir.
Always.
All right.